Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week?
In an article on Vox magazine written by Li Zhao, we learned that Lizzo, a pop star who has built her brand on both body positivity and empowering upbeat hits, is facing a new lawsuit that levels serious allegations, including claims that she created a hostile work environment and engaged in sexual harassment. The lawsuit, filed by three of Lizzo's former dancers, also alleges misconduct by her production company, Big Girl Big Touring Incorporated, and her dance team captain, Charlene Quigley. Among the claims included in the suit is that Lizzo pressured dancers into unwanted sexual situations, made statements that were perceived as thinly veiled comments about a dancer's weight gain, and put people through grueling rehearsals that led one dancer to soiling herself. As of August 9th, at least 6 more former employees have filed similar complaints. In an Instagram post, Lizzo pushed back against these allegations, claiming they are as, quote, unbelievable as they sound and too outrageous not to be addressed, end quote. Since receiving these allegations, Lizzo has been dropped from several campaigns. Beyoncé has removed Lizzo's name from a song where she mentioned her, and she has been dropped from Super Bowl consideration. Now, with all of that being said, Andre, why do you think that the response to Lizzo's accusations has been so immediate and swift, yet celebrities like Ezra Miller, for example, are given the benefit of the doubt in regards to their controversy?
While Lizzo's guilt or innocence in this case is yet to be determined, the reality is Black people don't have the luxury of being innocent until proven guilty. It's always been the other way around, even more so when it comes to Black women. I think the larger issue here is the fact that we are seeing in real time how unbalanced the scales are when it comes to how Black celebrities and white celebrities are punished for their actions. Taking it back to the Ezra Miller situation, they have been involved in some very nefarious behaviors and have gone on record bragging about how the police couldn't find them. Yet the higher ups in Miller's case, the studio they worked for decided not to let them go and instead allowed Miller to continue filming the production they were working on at the time. And had the movie been a success, there were even talks of Miller reprising the role for future projects. Now, all of these decisions were made prior to Miller's court date, and yet the studio still rallied behind them and even went so far as to say because the film they starred in was so allegedly good that people wouldn't even care about Miller's past actions. Well, it turns out that the film was a colossal failure and the studio lost millions, which has most definitely ended any possible relationship they may have had with Miller moving forward. But the point I'm trying to make here is the studio didn't want to drop Miller for their crimes, but now that Miller has affected their bottom line, Miller is no longer an asset to their company, therefore they have no reason to continue working with them. And this has everything to do with the fact that whiteness gives people the benefit of the doubt in a way that Blackness never has. But I also think that there is something deeper going on here in regards to why Lizzo and other Black artists who are in the midst of controversy are more quickly dropped from brand deals, agencies, and partnerships than their white counterparts. I think it all comes down to the higher ups understanding the power of racism and privilege and using these systems to their advantage in very specific ways. For example, regardless of Miller's gender identity and sexuality, Miller is still a white person that is able to benefit from the patriarchy due to some bigoted perceptions of Miller's identity. However, Lizzo is a big Black woman with a strong personality, and in our fat-phobic, racist, misogynistic society, she holds far less systemic and social power than Miller. Not to mention that all the people who are always lying in wait, for the slightest misstep of successful marginalized people in order to bring about their downfall. Now, in the eyes of the higher ups in the industry, Black artists are less valuable than white artists, which means they are less likely to try to protect them should a controversy arise. Now, these higher ups are more willing to take a chance on trying to salvage a white person's career, like Miller's, than a Black woman like Lizzo, simply due to the fact that white apologies are more socially accepted as atonement in the public eye than any other race. Now, this is not to say that the method always works, as evident by the box office failure of Miller's film, but more often than not, this system has proven to work time and again with countless other white artists, which is why I believe that the higher ups in the industry are so quick to dismiss or distance themselves from Black celebrities' controversies, because by their metrics, they stand to lose way more by standing by a Black celebrity until the controversy is resolved than just by dropping them altogether. Because even if that Black celebrity is proven innocent, in the eyes of many bigoted people in society or in the court of public opinion, they were and will always be guilty. But Daquon, what are your thoughts about this?
I mean, let's just compare the two. We have Lizzo, who is, like you said, a plus-size, Black, outspoken woman. And we have Ezra Miller, who is a white, conventionally attractive, non-binary individual. So in the essence, we have a situation where we see how race plays into the media's responses to different controversies, as well as other intersectional identities. One of the biggest things that I think comes from this situation is just how, unforgiving the media has been to Lizzo. They have made all different types of claims and really have done a lot of work to just throw as much mud on her name as possible. Now, I want to be clear. I am not saying this to defend Lizzo. I am not saying this to, discredit the allegations that are being levied against her, because I like to believe in victims, and the legal system is what's going to make the final decision, not me, in terms. And I do believe that justice should be served to whoever needs it. But I'm saying this because there is this unbalanced way that we like to throw the book at people. We've talked about this before on the podcast, thinking back to the Whoopi Goldberg situation. I'm very much of the belief, if we are going to throw the book at people, which we should, we need to throw it evenly and across lines and identities, because there's no reason why we should have two situations where people have done something allegedly wrong, and one of them, it's like, well, let's just think about their mental health and what they're going through. And the other is making fatphobic comments, making racist comments, and all of these other bigoted, mean-spirited comments. So I think one of the most important things that we need to think about when we have this discussion is how these identities play into our conversations, play into the media's perception, and exactly what they're doing. Because I remember seeing some of the headlines for this, and they really picked on Lizzo for being this body positive, plus size person, and then fat shaming people, really in a way that essentially fat shames Lizzo. And I think that, on the other hand, there is going to be some differences in certain situations. I think that in a case like Lizzo, there would have always been a little more outrage, even beyond just race and identities, because Lizzo is somebody that talks about body positivity and is this very upbeat, uplifting person, empowering person. So to see her outward message not necessarily reflecting her alleged actions can be a little jarring. However, like I said before, when we are throwing the book, we throw the book evenly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, I want to ask you also, like, even though we can both agree that, people should be held accountable for their actions, do you think that Lizzo's accusations have opened the door for that, socially acceptable fat phobic rhetoric?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there are so many people that are plotting on people's downfalls. They
Yeah.
are waiting in the dark, just like, all right, when is this person going to mess up? When can
Yeah.
I get them? And they jumped on this opportunity. Again, I'm not defending Lizzo. However, it needs to be said that a lot of these people were just waiting to say something on Lizzo and be able to get away with it. And I think that there is also this fine line when it comes to controversy of when people defend a person, they
Hmm.
also think that we are defending their actions,
Hmm.
and the two are mutually exclusive. We've talked about this before on the podcast as well, but we can criticize a person in what they've done without having to disrespect that person. We can talk about Lizzo and the controversy and all of these allegations without further fat shaming her or talking about her race or doing all of these mean spirited, bigoted comments. And so I think that there is this conversation that needs to be had around that. That it's sad that, even in this conversation right now, I have to clarify and clarify and clarify
Yeah.
that I am not defending Lizzo actions and these allegations because people just love to think that the moment you call somebody out for being fat phobic or bigoted
Yeah.
towards somebody who is going through controversy, that you're defending them. And that's not the case at all.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think Lizzo's accusations have 100% opened the door for this type of rhetoric because just like I said earlier, and just like you just said just now, there were people on the sidelines waiting for her downfall for a long time. And like you just said too, clarifying again, no one is saying that people shouldn't be discussing the allegations against Lizzo and or discussing how they would feel about her if these allegations are proven truthful. What I am saying, and I think what both of us are kind of saying here, is that there are several fat phobic and anti-Black people out there who are using these allegations as yet another way to tear down fat people or Black people. And there are also many Black people in the community, specifically, Black cis straight men, who are using these allegations to further perpetuate misogynoir and fat phobia. Now, when this story first broke, there were probably and still are, massive amounts of videos of people that have been making, using this story as like a gotcha moment to the public, as if the story somehow weakens the argument that we as a society still shouldn't be fat phobic, racist, or perpetuating, misogynoir. Now, no one is saying that if these allegations are true, that Lizzo shouldn't be held accountable. If they are true, then it is truly despicable to hear that someone who we thought of as a body positive type of performer has betrayed the very message she stood for, among other things. However, I also want people to know that, just like you said, just because the message may have come from a source who might not be practicing what they preach, this does not negate the fact that the message still remains the truth. People who are hating on Lizzo simply because she's a big Black woman were and still are wrong. The message that people should love themselves and celebrate the bodies that they have is also still an empowering and correct message. And the message that body shaming is wrong is also still very much so correct. It's very frustrating to me that people can't seem to grasp the concept that if you become a bigot when someone of a marginalized community upsets you, then you were never an ally to begin with. You were just a bigot in disguise. So to the people who are calling out Lizzo by insulting her weight, her Blackness, and or her womanhood, you are still being fat phobic, anti-Black, and misogynistic. Just because the person you're calling out has fallen out of favor with the public or done something that's controversial or illegal does not give you free reign to let out your internalized prejudice, and let it run rampant. You can hold someone accountable without having to resort to prejudice to do so. And if you can't, I think that means that you might have a lot of unpacking and unlearning to do. But I mean, what do you think about that, Daquon?
I really enjoyed how you said that, despite all of these different allegations that are being levied against Lizzo, that it doesn't change that the message she shares still needs to be heard, because that is so true. And if not, it shows even more why this message should be shared more widely and talked about, because we can see that even in somebody who is body positive, who is this kind of ally and advocate for certain things, there can still be problems within that person. And so I think that it really creates this big message that, like, even when we see people doing big things and saying different things, that there can still be these underlying feelings of fat phobia and internalized misogynoir and all of these different things. And I also think that it is so important to call out people who are just using controversy to be bigoted as bigots, because that's what they are. If you are only an ally to somebody when they are good in your eyes, when they are one of the good ones, you are a part of the problem. You are the problem.
The problem. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think it's really sad that we as a society can't seem to grow past that, and we've seen this a lot of times in the past before too. I mean, even people who, try to, check Candace Owens or Caitlyn Jenner, or Christian Walker. It's like, if you're being homophobic, you're being racist, or you're being transphobic, you're calling Caitlyn Jenner he and using he, him pronouns, or Ezra Miller or whatever, and saying, I'm not going to respect their pronouns because they're a horrible person. I've heard that a lot too. And it's like, that you are still being a bad person. You are still doing the wrong thing. What is it? How does that saying go? Like, two wrong things don't make a right kind of thing, where it's like, if you're sitting there talking shit about a person's identity, you're not just talking shit about their identity, you're talking about everybody who has that identity. We can call people out for being, saying very egregious and disgusting things and having and using very violent language, but that does not excuse being transphobic, racist, misogynistic, all the isms and stuff like that. It just doesn't. And to think anything otherwise than that, like you just said, Daquon, you are the problem.
Right. And one more little thing, I think that, like you said, we have to realize that comments don't just affect the person you're throwing them at.
Yes.
I think that there's something like, when you come from a marginalized community and somebody from that community messes up on a huge level, you are like, okay, this person should be held accountable.
Yeah.
But you're also like, dang, I know that so many people are going to use this to be racist, not only to that person, but to all of the Black community. You know that somebody is going to spew all of these fat phobic comments, and it's also going to impact you and what you see on social media, because it will be everywhere. So we have to realize that when you criticize somebody in a bigoted way, it's going to affect that entire community.
In an article written on Yahoo News by Kaylee Werner, we learned that a woman has revealed that she found herself asking for a divorce just one day after she and her husband tied the knot. According to the bride, she had made it clear that one matter wasn't up for debate in regards to their wedding. She said, quote, "My only hard and fast rule was that he would not rub cake in my face at the reception. Being a reasonable man who knows me well, he didn't. Instead, he grabbed me by the back of my head and shoved my head down into it." In the column, she added that she assumed her groom had strategically thought of smashing her face in the cake ahead of time, because after the cake was ruined, he had prepared backup cupcakes. She said, quote, "I left. Next day, I told him that we were done, and I'm standing by that," end quote. However, she said that not everyone agreed with her decision and that her friends and family had encouraged her to give him a second chance. She said, quote, "I am very claustrophobic after a car accident years ago, and I absolutely panicked at being shoved into a cake and held there. Everyone is so united and confident in their assurance that I am making a terrible mistake that I wonder if maybe they're right," end quote. Even if there wasn't a traumatic reason behind why she didn't want a cake smash in her face, Daquon, do you think it's a major red flag for her partner to intentionally cross her boundaries? Or was it just a harmless joke, as everyone loves to say?
Honestly, there are no words, but I'll make up some words because
I'll open up a dictionary.
This situation right here has me heated. Because first off, like as somebody that does makeup, it takes so much time to get somebody prepared for their wedding. Not only that, but it also costs so much money.
Yep.
So you're telling me I spent all this time, I spent all this money, I did all of this to get zhuzhed up, and you're going to ruin it because you think it's funny.
Yeah.
Even after I said not to do. Listen, if I was in that situation, I wouldn't even wait till the next day. It would be over then and there. I would tell you right there in the moment because it's a huge red flag. Because even if this is some small little innocent thing people believe, it shows that this woman's boundaries were not respected. And if you are going to cross the boundaries on the wedding day, on something that is supposed to be special and magic and one of your, best days ever, if you're going to cross boundaries now, imagine what's going to happen in the future. Because that shows me that you don't respect my boundaries. That to you, if you think it's funny, if you think it's cool and raw, all right, you'll do it and maybe beg for forgiveness later. And it's not true. I think that I see it so often that people do this, and I'm like, every single time, I'm like, girl, leave him. This is only a sign that things could get very, very worse.
I agree. The more I see of some marriages, the more I think, hey, maybe being single isn't so bad.
Maybe I don't need somebody else.
Honestly, because like this shit right here is completely terrifying in so many ways. I mean, everyone loves to scream out, "It's a joke, laugh a little, it's not that serious." But I do not agree. Like a lighthearted joke or prank with your partner is only funny when both of you are genuinely laughing. And in many, if not almost all of the cake smashing videos that have been circulating around the internet, the only person in that situation that's laughing has always been the groom. But back to the question, yes, this is a 100% a major red flag. This wasn't just like a spur of the moment idea. This was premeditated, thought out, and executed with the express desire to embarrass and cause this woman distress. And for those of you who might say, it's just a cake, it's not like it'll kill her, let's bring things into perspective a little. Let's say that you and your partner went to a party that had a pool in the backyard, and your partner knew that not only could you not swim, but you had a traumatic experience in your childhood where you almost drowned, so you're definitely afraid of the water. Then when you get to the party, your partner scoops you up out of the chair, throws you in the pool, and makes sure everyone has their phones out to record you nearly drowning while he laughs and says, "It was just a joke." That wouldn't be too funny now, would it? And considering the trauma that this woman has been through, that's a pretty close equivalent to what her partner just did to her. Now, there is no telling how the cake smashing could have triggered her trauma responses. I mean, she could have had a panic attack, a depression spiral, flashbacks, etc. The fact that he purposefully put his soon-to-be wife in a situation that he knew would cause her immense distress is very revealing of his true feelings to her. He either does not want to marry her, but also doesn't want to lose her because she takes care of him, which is why he's throwing an adult, temper tantrum. Or this is some form of, abuse inoculation that some people, mostly men, use as a way to gauge how far they can push their partner's boundaries before they go too far. Or it could be both. But I really want to focus on that second part because I think that a lot of people don't really understand that a boundary is only as strong as the one who enforces it, and is only important to yourself and to the people who love and respect you. If someone intentionally crosses a boundary you've established, like the man in this story, that person does not love or respect you. You need to run like your life depends on it, because bitch, it fucking does in many different ways. Because too many men will try to wear down a woman's boundaries, self-esteem, and confidence, either because they, just don't like them, or they want to bring them to a tolerable level of permanent unhappiness, a phrase coined by a Reddit user that I'd come to hear on TikTok by a user named @SharHenley_. But Daquon, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about her friends and family's response to this issue? And by the way, I wasn't calling her a bitch. I was saying bitch in the regular sense.
Right. But in terms of friends and family, I think they're trash. Like,
oh, Daquon!
Dare
you. Not Basuda. Not
Basuda. But like, how dare you? Like, you are my friend. You are my family. Yeah. And you're defending him?
Yeah.
No. I do think that, like, sure, your friends and family should be able to calm you down, help you think rationally, X, Y, and Z. But in a situation like this, it is clear that this person, this man, does not respect boundaries. And if you don't respect my boundaries, you don't respect me. And I'm not going to have that in a relationship. I also think that, in a sense, the friends and family aren't respecting this bride's boundaries, because they are saying that, oh, it's something small. You should just forgive this and get over it, and you're making a mistake. But in reality, there is nothing worse than having your trust betrayed by somebody who you think loves you and is going to be that one for you forever. That is truly a heartbreaking situation. And I think it's a sad reality, because we see this so often on social media that a lot of times people are in a marriage for themselves, for their benefits. Like, we see these cake smashing videos. We see gender reveal parties where husbands are having full tantrums because the baby is a girl and not a boy. Or we have more gender reveal parties where, when the gender is revealed to be a boy, the father goes with the friends first.
Oh yeah, I see that video. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The child, and it's like,
push her out the way fully.
Right. It's like, the disrespect is palpable and honestly disgusting. So I know I personally would never want to be disrespected in that way. And I know that my good friends would realize that. So I think that this is a time when you really got to talk to your friends and family and be like, I hear what you're saying. However, no, this was my one hard and fast rule. This was a boundary I set, and he went out of his way
far out
that line.
Yeah, and I really want to go back to what you said just now about the most heartbreaking thing is having your trust broken by someone you love and care about. Oh, bitch, you hit me, bitch. I almost cried. Hold on, bitch. You hit me in the heart. That was in the heart right there. But yeah, it's very disheartening if you ask me. I'd expect this kind of response from his side of the family. But the fact that her own family and friends are telling her that she made a mistake because she's ready to leave a man who intentionally did something to hurt her is both sad and also not that surprising, honestly. Bitch, boa constrictors ain't got shit on the death gripping chokehold that patriarchy has on our society. The fact that her friends and family are trying to convince her to go back to him while also trying to make her believe that she's blowing this out of proportion only proves that they have already tied her value as a woman to her being married. They're hoping that she'll buy into this idea that being unhappy and married is somehow a much better reality than being happy and single. Patriarchy, has brainwashed many of us into believing that if we don't have a partner or a family, then we aren't contributing to society or that something is wrong with us. It makes us terrified of being alone or it makes us so terrified of being alone that we would rather be in a relationship with someone that we don't like or love just to say we have someone. Now, while patriarchy benefits men the most, obviously, it hurts the collective totally. It has taught men that things like cooking, cleaning, and child rearing are supposedly quote unquote women's work. And so many men will date and even marry women that they don't like or love because they know that these women will do all the things that they feel like men aren't supposed to do. So these men will often get with a good woman only to spend their life and that woman's life miserable together because, hey, at least they're married. But let me tell you something. I may be nervous that I may never get the chance to know what it's like to be in a romantic relationship, but I'm fucking terrified of spending my life with someone who doesn't truly love me. Now, do I think that the family and friends of the woman in this post are bad people? I have no idea because we don't know them. Maybe they truly think that they are helping her because they are just too far gone in the sauce of patriarchy. But in this case, just in case someone is listening who is in a situation where people are trying to discourage them from a decision that they know in their heart of hearts is the right one for them, I offer this piece of advice that I just heard recently from Viola Davis. And she said it was from a Glenn and Doyle's Untamed. And it goes, when it comes down to disappointing other people or disappointing yourself, choose other people all the time. And Viola Davis added to it saying that, in fact, it's your job in life to disappoint as many people as you can so that you do not disappoint yourself. The only person who has to live with the decision that you make for your life is not your parents, not your friends, not even your partner. It's you. It's your job to make sure that you are taking care of your happiness, because if you don't, nobody else will. How do you feel about that quote, Daquon? Because, bitch, that shit gathered me when I heard it.
Now, that hits. That hits. And it's so true. Even if we think about this situation, like,
yeah,
you can never get that moment back. Mm-hmm. You can never go back in time and recover that moment. You can never get rid of the embarrassment that you felt during that time. And honestly, it could be possible that you are never able to trust that person again. Mm-hmm. But you know what you can do? Find another person. Mm-hmm. There are so many other people out there, but there's only one time that you're going to have a specific moment. Yes, you could have another wedding, but it will never be the same as that first wedding. And so I think that that's something that people also, that the friends and family also aren't clicking with, is that that's a moment that this woman is never going to be able to get again. Once you've passed the moment, it's gone. You can't go back in time. It's just not possible. So if I am moving forward from a situation, I can find another man. I can find happiness
Period.
in myself.
Yes.
I can find a life where I fulfill the needs and I can find people that are going to respect and
Yeah.
love me and my boundaries. But you're focused on thinking about, oh, this is what's going to be most comforting. Just go back to him. It'll be fine. And all this.
Yeah.
No. And I just love that quote because
Right.
really, just like it hit me like
Girl.
you spend your life disappointing others so you never disappoint
Disappoint
yourself.
yourself. Mm-hmm.
It's honestly so true because let's be real. When our time comes to an end, the only person that's going to be with us during that time is ourself. The
Mm-hmm.
only person that's with us every step of our life is ourself. And I know that some people are going to be like, well, you can't be selfish. It's not selfish to love yourself. It is not selfish to respect yourself. It is not selfish to do what you know is best for you.
And I think also it's really sad how I've seen and heard so many people, be in marriages and you hear how they talk about their partner. You're like, oh, yeah, I've been married for 20 years. And they're kind of like, yeah, that's my man, or yeah, that's my wife, or da 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 da. And it always seems like it's just, oh God, this person just waiting for them to die kind of shit, or something like that. And it's just kind of like, what are you getting from that? Like, what is, I mean, yes, y'all been married for 30, 40 years, but he's been cheating on you for, 39 of them. You know what I mean? But it's like, I just feel like it's really sad how we have kind of created a society where being unhappy and coupled is considered an achievement to some degree. Like the idea, and no one's saying that there's not going to be hard times in a relationship. No one's saying that you're not going to go through rough patches and stuff like that. But if the way that you look at your partner is as if you look at your partner as if they are a burden or as if you just don't want to be with them, then why are you still with them? Then why are you still in this relationship? Or especially when we see these people who get into these relationships or get married, or they try to force someone to marry them by saying, if you don't, I'm going to leave, you don't marry me, da da da, X, Y, and Z. If they wanted to, they would. If you've been with a partner and y'all have talked about being married and y'all wanted to be married and X, Y, and Z, and they are like not making any moves to do so, or y'all, and it's never been something they're bringing up to, and y'all been together for 5, 10, whatever many years, and they have never actually approached the idea of marrying you, or that they've been just kind of stringing you along this whole time. Recognize that if they wanted to, they would. And the fact that they haven't lets you know just how they feel about you. Because a man who truly wants to marry you, or a person who truly wants to be with you, will not let anything stand in your way. I think I heard this quote from somebody. I think her name is Shauna on TikTok. But she was like, if a person truly does love you, they will do everything in their power to make you happy and to do what makes you happy. And so if that person is not doing that, baby, that's not love. Because if y'all are both working to make each other happier than y'all already are, that's a relationship right there. But if only one partner is focused on making another partner happy and the other partner isn't, then it's not really love. You just
It's not a relationship.
It's not a period, bitch.
It's a transaction.
It's eight.
And that's on period. Weeks after delivering anti-strike comments during a fan convention, actor Stephen Amell was spotted on the picket line in New York on Friday, August 11th. Wearing a black SAG-AFTRA strong shirt and carrying a sign, Amell was on the other side of the country from his former Arrow co-stars and creative team, who struck together in front of Warner Bros. Studios in Burbank during a planned reunion picket. Amell earned criticism from fellow union members after seeming to speak critically about the strike on July 30th at GalaxyCon in Raleigh, North Carolina. In a widely distributed clip, he said, quote, I support my union. I do. And I stand with them. I do not support striking. I don't. I think that it's a reductive negotiating tactic. I find the entire thing incredibly frustrating. I think the thinking as it pertains to show like the show I'm on that premiered last night, I think it's myopic, end quotes. On August 1st, Amel took to Instagram for damage control, writing quotes, I'm simply sad that we don't have a chance to celebrate a show that all of us figuratively and I literally broke my back for. At least for the foreseeable future, I choose to stand with my union. When you see me on the picket line, please don't whip any hard fruits. With that being said, Andre, how important do you feel it is to vocalize your support and display solidarity with worker strikes? And do you think that SAG and WGA demands are unrealistic, like the way the CEOs of these struck companies are saying they are?
First and foremost, that's Stephen Amell impression. Bitch, get out.
It's giving acting challenge.
It's giving very much so. But yeah, it is incredibly important to support and stand in solidarity with worker strikes, because even if it isn't your job where the strike is occurring, the effects of a worker strike reverberate everywhere to some degree. The success or failure of a strike could change so much about how big corporations look at workers at lower levels. Billionaires don't become billionaires from being fair. They get that money from the exploitation of the poor people they employ. Most of that exploitation comes from paying people well under their true worth to the company. Billionaires and big corporations count on poor people, never realizing their true worth, which is why they try so hard to shift the public consciousness into believing that strikes and strikers are bad and that people are just being greedy and so on and so forth. It's all just projection, because they know that they have no power to leverage if there is no one who will work at their companies. And speaking specifically about the WGA and SAG strike, I think it goes without saying that Daquon and I here at the Melanin Margin stand with the WGA and SAG. The guidelines state that podcasters are to refrain from promoting work from any struck companies, and we will be adhering to those guidelines moving forward until the strike has ended. But back to the question. I don't think that the SAG or WGA's demands are unrealistic at all. I just think that the AMPTP just wants us to believe that, so that this pressures SAG and the WGA to break their strike. But it isn't going to work in this new day and age, because information is entirely too readily accessible for the AMTPT, whatever the fuck the name is, to try to play that game anymore. SAG and WGA are united more now than ever before, and most of the public is on their side, because we're all seeing just how rapidly the industry is changing for everyone. AI is here and it's not going anywhere, and because of this, if the WGA and SAG don't get protected from it now, the studio heads will work hard to ensure that one day we won't need writers or writers' rooms or actors, because they'll let AI take care of it all. They have already been in talks with having AI write screenplays and have background actors get paid a one-time fee to have their faces and bodies scanned, so that these studios can use their likeness in perpetuity without ever having to pay them again. This could effectively close even more pathways for new actors and writers to break into the industry. It's already starting to happen in so many different ways already. A new show that we're not able to reference from one of the struck companies just released a show with a theme that has been completely generated by AI. The show creators claim that it was because they wanted it to look computer generated, but that's utter bullshit. There are several artists and VFX teams out there who could have done that and better. What the studio representing this show was actually doing was testing the waters of public consciousness to see if we'd accept an AI-generated product to slowly make this more widely accepted so that they can hire less and less people. The demands of the WGA and SAG are proposing are in an effort to not only save their own careers, but to preserve the career path of future generations of actors and writers. But Another thing that I think is really alarming about all of this is that these lawmakers are so focused on the LGBTQ plus community and continuing to further marginalize the already oppressed, that the real threat of AI is looming hard and fast in the background. Because I hope people don't think that these billionaires are just going to stop at the actors and writers when it comes to integrating AI into our day-to-day life. I hope they don't think that's what the T is, because not when these dollar signs are in their eyes, bitch. That's not how that works. You really think that they will, won't, if they haven't already, be looking into ways to integrate AI into their companies as well, so that they can dissolve some of those lower level jobs? Because I can assure you that this is definitely on their minds. If we don't start to create laws that regulate AI and how it can be used, there's no telling how many jobs will become obsolete in the future, which could continue making the rich richer and the poor even fucking poorer. But Daquon, what do you think, bitch?
Girl, we both know they love to cut a corner.
Oh, bitch, you already love
to cut a corner. They're like, oh, we don't have to pay somebody? Let's do it.
Done.
Consider it handled. But I think that it is so important to show your solidarity with strikes, because that is how strikes work.
Yes.
Strikes work because there is a collective leverage, that there is collective bargaining and a union among members. But that doesn't happen when you're criticizing a strike because you don't feel like you can celebrate your show, or you don't feel like your show is being celebrated enough, or X, Y, and Z. It is honestly kind of selfish, because at this moment, you are caring about your emotions and your egos versus the needs and wants of all of your fellow actors and writers. Like, let's be real. These people are asking basically for respect, to respect their time and the amount of energy that they put into the work by being paid fairly, by respecting their creative processes, by making sure that they don't have just AI written scripts and maybe one human to edit it, if that. And they are asking for these companies to respect their image, not scanning their bodies and faces to put them on some AI so that they can use it in perpetuity. Like, that right there is wild.
Yeah, very.
And so for somebody like Stephen Amell to be like, I don't support striking, it's reductive. It's like, how is it reductive? How, Sway?
Please.
Because it's just, strikes are and can be an incredibly effective way to get demands done. It shows that, look, at the end of the day, you need us. And we are not going to work for you until you give us our basic needs and respect us as workers. Because these billionaires, these production companies, these CEOs and heads, they don't respect their workers. They don't respect their employees. And like you said, it's not going to stop there. Like, you think the CEO of Walmart respects their employees? You think Bezos respects employees?
Come on.
It's going to be such a shock to some people when they see AI taking over. I mean, people have talked about it before with like McDonald's getting rid of cashiers in favor of those little machines where you put your orders in. It's going to be something that grows and grows and grows. And I'm not saying that to like fearmonger. I don't think that we should be scared of AI. Like you said, now is the time that we get ahead of the game in terms of AI, protecting human rights and our regulating rights as workers, and regulating how AI can be used not only in entertainment, but in our society as a whole. Because AI could be incredibly useful. It could be a powerful tool for us to use, but it's not going to be that tool if we're using it to replace human beings.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, do you think that it's unrealistic, like the goal, like what the AMTP, what the WGA and SAG are asking for?
Absolutely not. It is
Yeah.
it's
bare
honestly
minimum, really. It's
the
they
bare
should be asking for
minimum.
more.
It's what they should be doing. And I
Yeah.
think that, it is propaganda and it's the
Yeah.
agenda of these production companies to make it out that these are unrealistic things that these
Yes.
actors are acting for, or it's rich actors asking for more money.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we have to realize that SAG is not just the top
The
dogs
rich.
in
Yes.
acting
Yeah.
and the
Mhm.
rich.
Yeah.
If anything, it is so important that even the rich actors are picketing and striking and making noise because A, they have the platform, B, they have the resources to help fund the strike, and
Exactly.
C, they can have so much persuasion power
Yes.
in negotiating leverage. And so it is not something where people are being greedy or selfish or,
Yeah.
trying to be lazy, like these producers are saying. It
Yeah.
is literally workers just asking to be respected. And we should
Yeah.
respect that. We should support that. And honestly, like, we should be taking notes. We should be making sure that
Exactly.
we
That part, bitch.
understand.
That part. Yeah.
We should be making sure that we understand what's happening right now, because this strike is one of many that is
That are
happening.
coming. Yeah.
There are so many
Long
strikes
time
that
coming.
are
Yeah.
already happening and so many strikes that are to come. So it is important now that we tune in, that we understand how solidarity works, and we understand the importance it is to protect workers' rights.
Yeah, and I'm also really, disheartened by the people who are crossing picket lines. Aside
Mhm.
from the fact of it being wrong and
Right.
shady, it's counterproductive to the movement and affects both the picketers and the person who crosses the picket lines. The people on the SAG and WGA picket lines are fighting for fair pay for the little people. Everyone sees, just like you said, the famous rich faces of these big name actors picketing with everyone, and it just assume that this strike is mainly to make rich actors more wealthy, and that's simply not true. That's just what the AMPTP is trying to get us to believe. But what is actually happening in is that these big name actors are standing with the up and coming actors and writers who aren't super rich or well off enough to be able to afford being out of work for extended periods of time. When you cross picket lines, you're not just hurting you're not hurting the rich actors nearly as much as you're hurting the young actors and writers who are trying to break out into a business where the people in charge want to make it even harder for them to pursue their career path. Not to mention that you're doing a major disservice to yourself, because even though it may not seem like it now, but if you have any interest in pursuing a career in the arts, you may need to join one of these two unions, and they will remember who was standing with them and who was standing against them. But for those people who have declined those offers that came to their inbox about promoting a movie, going to a premiere, and declined them to stand in solidarity, I would say make sure you remember the offers they brought to you when that strike ends, especially if you are a person of color or a Black person. What we often hear from these studios and these big name brands is that when a successful Black influencer gives them a quote of how much they charge for promotion, they give them that tired excuse of, we just don't have it in the budget. It's just not in the budget. But now they're running to you, offering you 2, sometimes 3 times your asking rate to cross a picket line. And what that should let you know is, if they wanted to, they would. When this strike ends and they start to pay these actors and writers fairly, make sure you remember and recognize your worth as well when you are approached by these big brands in the future, because they've always had the budget. They just didn't want you to think that they did, so that they could pay you less than what you know you deserve. This is one of the main reasons why this strike has been going on for so long. It's not because the studios can't afford to meet these actors or writers' demands. They very much so can, and then some, which they fucking should. But, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. But they are holding off because they know that if they meet these demands, then that means that other people could unionize, like the VFX teams, which they already are, animation teams, and so on would follow suit as well. These studios and brands depend on taking advantage on someone in the chain of their business in order to create their billions. And if they know that they can pay and treat one group fairly, if we know they can pay and treat one group fairly, then they know that others would ask for the same, which is why we need to support these strikes, because when we make them pockets hurt badly enough, if we make them pockets hurt badly enough, you know, they hopefully will give everyone in the chain fair working conditions, livable wages, and respect. But, you know, that's kind of like a dream, hopefully. But like, I think that, you know, it's a dream. But like, the sad part is, I think that people just don't really seem to get that idea that if you don't support these strikes, then you're just hurting you're hurting everybody. It's not, and you're hurting yourself in the process too. You know, point blank example, like,
like, I don't understand scabs. Like,
yes,
it does not compute in my brain, because you're literally going against your own self-interest. Like, these people are fighting for you to be respected. These people are fighting for you to get a fair wage, that for everybody to get what they want, and you crossing a picket line so that you could get a one-up, girl, A, it don't look good
at all.
B,
the optics, bitch.
The optics. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And B, it's not going to last.
It's all.
Not going to last at all, because you may get this little bump right now, but when the strike ends, the demands are met, etc., people are going to remember that.
Exactly.
People are going to remember that, and that's going to affect a lot of different decisions.
Your bag in perpetuity.
Right. Your bag in perpetuity. So it doesn't make sense to me to cross a picket line. I think that people who cross picket lines are honestly kind of selfish. And it's something that I think it's so important to know, that even just one person crossing a picket line diminishes a strike.
Exactly.
It's one of these things where I think sometimes we think like, oh, it's only one person. Oh, it's only like one comment that they made, X, Y, and Z. But we don't realize that one comment can turn into two people can turn into 6, and it just grows and grows and grows. And we can't have an individualistic mindset when it comes to this. We have to be thinking about the collective. And it's so important for us to realize that as soon as possible, because like you said before, they got the money. They got plenty of money to meet
to do that and more so.
These billion-dollar companies that are making billions on top of billions, they have the budget. The budget is there.
Always
they can find the money, because they find it when they want to. When they want somebody to cross that picket line, they'll find some extra money. When they want somebody to head up this company and be the CEO, they'll find some money for them to pat them billionaire pockets. But when it comes to the everyday person, the little person, it's always, we don't have the budget, because they don't care enough to find the budget. And that's honestly pretty sad. Now, the table is always hot with current events and social issues, but sometimes the heat can get a little intense. let's turn the temp down, take a breather, and get into this week's topic cool down. So, Andre, I want to ask you, what would your dream vacation look like?
Let's see. So my dream vacation isn't solely a place I want to
Mhm.
visit, but like a state of mind I'd want to exist in while I'm there. As a creative person, you know this, Daquon. It's really hard to relax when you're off from your regular 9 to 5 because in your free time from work responsibilities, your career responsibilities start to creep in. You're always
Yup.
thinking of new ways to put yourself out there, succeeding your chosen career path or working on a project that you finally have enough time to catch up on, which always seems to make vacation slightly more difficult because it's really hard to turn off that part of your brain and just relax. So I think that my dream vacation would start with me being in a place in my career where I don't have to be on the grind all the time because I'd be in a place in my career where I know my supporters will be waiting for me when I get back, and I have more than enough money to take as much time as I need to recharge. And then I think I'd like to go on a vacation to a beach. Not one, beach in particular, just one with a really long pier. One of my favorite places to be in this world is right at the end of a beach pier where you're far out into the ocean looking out into its vastness. In my dream vacation, the pier would mostly be empty because I like, I don't fuck with people like that. And it's hopefully right at the start of fall when it's cool but not cold. And just before sunset, when the sky is that beautiful orangey color, I love to be able to just close my eyes and let that salty sea air just glide across my melanated skin and just, meditate and just think about my place in the universe and shit, and be able to close my eyes and relax without having to worry about somebody coming up and beat my ass or some shit, crazy shit like that because people is fucking crazy. So like just an empty pier or just like I said, very few people on the pier where I could just sit there and just meditate, bitch, and just get into my bag, get into my mind, get into the universe, connect with the ancestors. You know what I mean, bitch? You know what I mean? What about you, Daquan? What does your dream vacation look like?
Girl, I feel that so much. Like, as you were saying this, I was like, yes, I see it. I
right?
It. I want it.
Yeah.
Because I think like the reality is a lot of times, like when you're a creative and your dream job and career is not aligned with your day-to-day job, even your vacations can just feel like excuses for more work. Like I find myself using my vacation time to be like, you know what? I'm going to block these days off and I'm going to use that to create content. And it's like, girl, I'm taking off to work. Like, how does that make sense? How is that a true vacation? Or even when I do go somewhere, like I'll go to another city or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking content. Like, what can I be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredibly hard, like you said, to turn that switch off. But for me, my dream vacation is somewhere where I can have that peace of mind. Like, and also like location wise, I want to go on vacation somewhere that has a wealth of environments. Like, I don't want to be bored on vacation. I want to be able to spend each and every day of that vacation somewhere different, somewhere where I can go to the beach if I want to enjoy the sea breeze, not to get in the water because, I
can't swim.
I can't swim. I don't mess with the water like that.
It's nice to look at from afar. It's nice to look at.
If we've learned one thing from the Titanic submarine, don't mess with the water. But go to the beach, go to the boardwalk, enjoy that kind of environment.
Yeah.
Maybe go to the city, do a little shopping, a little perusing around, go to some like cultural sites, a museum, X, Y, and Z. and then spend a day in like the forest to like truly disconnect from everything. No social media, no
Yeah.
phone, no scrolling, just like I am in the forest. I am breathing. I am connecting with nature. I'm not around people because I don't like them.
Yeah.
Right? Just like connect with nature and be somewhere where you can just clear your head because let's be real, there is so much stress in this world. There is so much stress, and it's not good for your skin. It's not good for your brain. It's not good for your mental health. So sometimes you just need to be able to go somewhere where none of that stress is and be able to exist. And I think that is truly the place where I'm like, I can finally
Ah,
get the energy that I need. I can finally recharge and, get my mental healthing and all of these different things. So I want a vacation spot where I can see variety. I can go different places, get different things, and be able to just enjoy myself in different ways.
I got you. Now, so many children grow up never knowing the full scope of what their culture has contributed to society and history. So it's time for a change. Let's take a pause, rewind, and remind the world just how we did that. In an article on history.com, we learn about the Montgomery bus boycott, a civil rights protest during which African Americans refused to ride city buses in Montgomery, Alabama to protest segregated seating. The boycott took place from December 5th, 1955 to December 20th, 1956, and is regarded as the first large-scale U.S. demonstration against segregation. 4 days before the boycott began, Rosa Parks, an African American woman, was arrested and fined for refusing to yield her bus seat to a white man. The Women's Political Council, WPC, a group of Black women working for civil rights, began circulating flyers calling for a boycott of the bus system on December 5th, the day Parks would be tried in municipal court. As news of the boycott spread, African American leaders across Montgomery, Alabama began lending their support. Although African Americans represented at least 75% of Montgomery's bus ridership, the city resisted complying with the protesters' demands. To ensure the boycott could be sustained, Black leaders organized carpools, and the city's African American taxi drivers charged only 10 cents, the same price as bus fare, for African American riders. Many Black residents chose simply to walk to work or other destinations. On June 5th, 1956, a Montgomery federal court ruled that any law requiring racially segregated seating on buses violated the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. That amendment, adopted in 1868 following the U.S. Civil War, guarantees all citizens, regardless of race, equal rights and equal protection under the state and federal law. The city appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, which upheld the lower court's decision on December 20th, 1956. Montgomery's buses were integrated on December 21st, 1956, and the boycott ended. It lasted 381 days. And I want to just kind of clarify one other thing, too. Did you hear how it said there were plans in place?
Ooh.
Plans. But we can't, that's a conversation for another day. Daquon.
It's very timely to see that, people had like plans and safety nets. They weren't just like, we're not going to ride the bus. Strike. It was like, oh, we'll not only not ride the bus, but we'll form carpools. We'll have taxi drivers only charge 10 cents. It's like, they were really planning this.
To sustain it. Interesting. Right. That's maybe a lot more people should be listening to those things. Anyway, Daquon.
Now, my We Did That comes from blackpast.org, where we learned that Elijah Saunders, MD, was a cardiologist and expert on hypertension whose work addressed issues of race and ethnicity in healthcare. Saunders was born in Maryland on December 9th, 1934. He attended Baltimore City Public Schools and graduated from Morgan State University in 1956. In 1960, Saunders received his medical degree from the University of Maryland and completed his residency 5 years later, becoming the first African American cardiologist in the state. Dr. Saunders was one of 18 founding members of the Association of Black Cardiologists, formed in 1974. In 1986, Saunders participated in creating the International Society of Hypertension in Blacks. He was a charter member of the American Society of Hypertension and a past president of the Maryland High Blood Pressure Coordinating Council. The project Ethnicity and Disease was launched in 2003 as a direct result of his research on the origin and treatment of hypertension in people of color in Afro-Caribbean countries. To make healthcare more accessible to African Americans, Dr. Saunders started the barbershop program in 1978, training beauticians and barbers to take clients' blood pressure and refer them for necessary treatments. Through his medical practice, Dr. Saunders observed that African American patients' responses to drug medications did not match his textbook training. He co-authored a book on the matter called Contemporary Diagnosis and Management of Hypertension in African Americans, which demonstrated the wide range in the efficacy of some blood pressure medications based on race, leading pharmaceutical companies to use more African American participants in clinical trials. In 2015, Dr. Saunders's contributions to medicine were celebrated at the University of Maryland School of Medicine's graduation ceremony, where he was awarded the Dean's Distinguished Gold Medal for his work.
You know, Black people, we stay. Girl, we stay getting this shit together.
Eating.
We stay eating, girl. Like, the fuck? Like, come on. Organizing shit, making shit happen, making
right?
bringing shit to the light. Like, come the fuck on. Contributing
it's so important. Like, there are so many times when if a Black person isn't in the industry doing the work for Black people, nobody else is going to care.
Exactly. Now, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and keep the conversation going down in the comment box below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you are listening to us on our podcast, please rate and review on whatever platform you're using. You can also follow our podcast on Instagram and TikTok for updates of new content at the Melanin Margin.
And if you'd like to follow each of us, our handles are at Daquon, MUE,
and at Andre Talks a Lot.
Now, we will see you all next time on the Melanin Margin, where our goal is always to bring the marginalized to the spotlight in any way we can. Goodbye now.